So, you're a law student, or maybe you've just graduated. First of all, congratulations! But now you're probably hearing all these titles being thrown around. Lawyer, advocate, barrister. What's the actual difference? And more importantly, what does it all mean for your career? Well, let's clear up the confusion and map out your journey from the classroom right into the courtroom. Let's start with a little quiz. Was Mahatma Gandhi a lawyer? I mean, we all know he studied law, but what was his official title? The answer isn't as simple as you might think, and this little bit of confusion actually gets to the very heart of what we're talking about today. You see, the answer to that question about Gandhi isn't a straight yes or no. It's way more interesting than that. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll know exactly what his title was and why that little detail matters for your own career path. So let's begin at the starting line. Okay, so every journey in the legal world has to start somewhere. After all that hard work, you finally earned that degree, and with it, you get your very first title. This is the moment you officially become a lawyer. So what does it actually mean to be a lawyer? Well, simply put, it's anyone who has a law degree. You've done the training, you understand the system, and yeah, you can give legal advice. But here's the big catch. You can't represent a client in court just yet. Think of it like this. You have a pilot's license, so you know how to fly the plane, but you're not yet cleared to actually take off with passengers. To actually get into that courtroom and argue a case, you need to level up. This next phase is all about moving from the theory of the classroom into the practical arena. It's about going from being a lawyer to becoming an advocate. And the path to get there is a very clear three-step process. First, you earn your degree, you're a lawyer. Next, you have to pass the big one, the All India Bar Exam. And once you clear that, you enroll with the State Bar Council, and that's it. Congratulations, you are now officially an advocate, ready to practice. This is where the game really changes. The title advocate, or adivakta in Hindi, literally means an official speaker. You are now the person authorized to be someone's voice in the legal system. You can stand up in court and argue for them. This title is the key that unlocks the courtroom door. But wait, there's one more major title that often gets mixed into all this, and this one has everything to do with geography. Let's talk about the international path and what it means to be a barrister. The definition is actually surprisingly simple. A barrister is someone who earned their law degree specifically in England. That's it. The title isn't about what they do day to day, but about where they went to school. And that little geographic detail is the final clue to our puzzle from the beginning. And there it is. The big reveal. At just 19 years old, Mahatma Gandhi went to London to study law. So when he came back to India with a degree from England, his correct title was barrister. It's a fantastic piece of trivia that perfectly illustrates this key difference, right? Okay, so let's just do a quick recap. A lawyer holds the degree but can't argue in court. An advocate has passed the Indian bar exam and they're good to go. And a barrister, they've got that English law degree, but, and this is important, to practice in India, they also have to pass the bar and become an advocate. That's the whole journey in a nutshell. Now that you're an advocate, the path starts to split. You've got some big choices to make about who you're going to represent. Are you going to work for private citizens, or are you going to work for the public, representing the government itself? Let's take a look at these different roles. So if you decide to represent private clients, whether that's a person or a big company, you're known as a pleader. The name says it all, really. Your main job is filing petitions and, well, pleading the case for your client in court. This is that classic trial lawyer role we always see in the movies. But what if you want to be on the other side of that? In that case, you could become a public prosecutor. Here, you're still arguing in court, but now you represent the state. When a crime is committed, you're the one arguing on behalf of the victim, trying to get justice not just for that one person, but for society as a whole. If you climb all the way to the top of a government legal career, you'll find two very distinct roles. Just think of it as the national level versus the state level. The Attorney General is the top law officer for the entire country, advising the central government. But then each state has its own highest legal advisor, and that person is called the Advocate General. Now, the Attorney General role is fascinating because of how it's structured. They're appointed by the president, and they are the supreme law officer for the whole nation. But here's the twist. Even though it's a constitutional post, their term isn't fixed. This means their job is often tied to the government in power, making it an incredibly powerful but also kind of a precarious position. They basically serve at the pleasure of the president. Of course, the Attorney General doesn't do all this work alone. They have a second in command, the Solicitor General, who is the country's second highest law officer. And the Solicitor General is backed up by a team of additional Solicitor Generals. It's a whole hierarchy designed to manage the massive legal workload of an entire country, just to make sure the government's legal machine keeps running smoothly. So, from a brand new graduate to potentially the highest law officer in the land, we've seen how each of these titles represents a very specific qualification and a different set of responsibilities. If there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's that earning your law degree isn't the finish line, it's just the starting gun. In the end, every single title we've talked about is really just a doorway to a different kind of future. So whether you see yourself fighting for a private client in court, pursuing justice for the public, or one day advising the entire nation, the first step is knowing the map. Now you have it. The only question left is, which path will you take?